Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be tackling a true crime case.
Okay.
And this one's really interesting.
All right.
It involves a woman named Lynn Hernan, who died under
Yeah.
pretty strange circumstances.
Well, what's so strange about it is that it appears that she died from Visine eye drops.
Eye drops, like the stuff that you use for, like,
Yeah.
irritated eyes.
Yep.
That's crazy. I mean, like, how...
It's a common household product that is
Yeah.
can be fatal in large quantities.
Okay.
And we'll be looking at this case through the lens of a 48 Hours podcast episode
All right.
called Postmortem.
Okay.
And it's actually the episode is after the episode aired.
Oh, so they're kind of looking back on
Reflecting on it, yeah.
the episode.
And also the trial of Jessie Kashesky.
Who is Jessie Kashesky?
She's the woman who's been convicted of her murder.
Okay, so we've got Visine eye drops. We've got a murder conviction.
Yep.
Like, I'm already intrigued.
Yeah. And the question is, was this a carefully planned grift or just a friendship gone wrong?
Okay, so what makes Visine so dangerous?
Well, it has a chemical in it called tetrahydrozoline,
Okay.
which in large quantities can be fatal.
Wow.
They mentioned another case that was reported by a guy named Peter Van Zandt, where someone was poisoned using this same chemical.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, it's so disturbing to think
Right.
that something so commonplace could be used as a weapon.
Well, yeah, this is a perfect example of,
Yeah.
you don't have to live in fear,
Right.
but you need to have awareness of your surroundings.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the case. So what was the initial response to
Yes.
Lynn Hernan's death?
The first responders found, pill bottles, crushed powder, and there really wasn't a lot of information on who her close contacts were.
Okay.
So they were leaning towards suicide.
So how did Visine even come into play?
Well, the toxicology report found a really high level of tetrahydrozoline in her system.
Wow.
And they realized you wouldn't get that much from just normal use
Right.
of eye drops.
Okay.
So then the focus shifted to homicide.
So that's a huge shift. I mean, from suicide to homicide.
Right.
And I'm guessing this is where Jessie Kashesky
Yeah. She kind of takes center stage at this point.
becomes a key part of this story. So
Right.
what was her relationship with Lynn?
Well, she claims that they were friends, but it was complicated.
Okay.
And there were a lot of financial inconsistencies.
Oh, okay.
And the prosecution really thought that she was motivated by financial gain.
Okay, so aside from like the financial aspect, were there any clues?
The judge in the case actually thought
Okay.
that Jessie might have been poisoning Lynn
Wow.
for a long time.
That's crazy.
Again, taking advantage of her pre-existing health conditions
Wow.
to try to mask it.
It's just chilling to think that someone could do that
It is. It
to
is.
somebody and pretend to be their friend.
Yeah. It's really a deep dive into manipulation, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is.
Because a lot of times people who abuse others,
Right.
they gain their trust and then they exploit their vulnerability.
Yeah.
So the victim starts to question their own perception of reality.
Yeah, it makes you think, like, even if Lynn had
Right.
other people in her life,
Exactly.
that they could have been completely fooled
They could have been completely fooled.
by Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we really need to dive into these financial red flags.
Yeah. What were some of the financial inconsistencies?
Well, one of the biggest things was that there's a recorded phone call
Okay.
of Jessie impersonating Lynn while she was trying to access her bank accounts.
Really? Let's hear it.
Okay.
That was just chilling.
It really is. You can just hear the manipulation.
Yeah.
She's trying to act like she's Lynn.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So were there any other financial red flags?
Well, yeah. I mean, shortly after Lynn died, she started trying to sell her stuff.
Oh, wow.
She even put some pots and pans up for sale on Facebook.
Oh, my gosh. That's so
Yeah.
disrespectful.
And she also tried to pawn a valuable bracelet that belonged to Lynn,
Okay.
a gold bracelet.
So it's really starting to paint a picture here.
Yeah. I mean, the motive seemed to be financial gain.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this potentially lethal substance.
Right.
We've got a suspect with financial motives and a judge who's suspicious.
Mhm.
So what happens next? Does Jessie try to defend herself?
Well, she does. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
She says that she has exonerating evidence
Okay.
and that she hid it in a public park.
What?
Yeah. And she even has a video call with deputies
Wow.
to show them where it is.
And they go out there and
They go out there and dig.
find nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It was a wild goose chase.
Oh my gosh. So clearly she's trying to mislead the investigation.
Yeah, she's trying to control the narrative.
Right.
Uh,
So was her story consistent throughout the investigation?
well, that's the thing. During multiple interrogations,
Okay.
her story changed quite a bit.
Oh, wow. So red flag number one.
Huge red flags.
Huge red flag. So basically you've got this battle of narratives happening, right?
It is. And the post-mortem episode focuses on the trial because they thought it was such a compelling case.
Okay.
They wanted to let the viewer kind of be like the 13th juror
Okay.
in the jury room.
So did the jury buy it?
Not at all. They found her guilty of first-degree intentional homicide
Wow.
and 2 counts of felony theft.
So what does first-degree intentional homicide actually mean in this context?
It means that they believe she planned this out
Okay.
and that she intentionally killed Lynn.
Okay.
And then the theft, of course, was from all of the financial crimes.
Okay, and when we say financial crimes, are we talking about like forgery?
Yeah, forgery identity theft.
Okay, and what does that look like in this case?
Like signing Lynn's name to checks,
Okay,
using her information without her consent.
gotcha. So you've got this premeditated murder
Right.
and this pattern of financial deception.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
It really is. It's disturbing, but the story doesn't end there, does it?
It doesn't. As they were getting ready for sentencing,
Okay.
a friend of hers delivers this envelope full of letters and documents
Oh, no.
from Jesse.
Wow, so she's still trying to manipulate things.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
come to find out she was trying to fabricate evidence.
What kind of evidence?
Well, like a fake voice recording trying to sound like Lynn,
Really?
and even trying to implicate her own lawyer.
Oh my gosh, did her lawyer drop her?
Oh, yeah. Her lawyer withdrew from the case immediately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Well, and of course, that delayed the sentencing.
Okay, so it seems like every step of the way there's more deception.
It's a really twisted story.
So sentencing finally happens.
It does. It takes 6.5 hours.
Wow.
And Jesse gives this long statement about how she's innocent.
Really?
Yeah, for like 2 hours she's talking.
2 hours? Wow. That's
Yes.
a long time to keep up a lie.
It is. And, the judge already said that she had doubts about the suicide thing
Right.
and thought that the poisoning could have been going on for a while.
Wow.
So she's not buying it either.
So what was the sentence?
Life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years
Wow.
and an extra 10 years for the financial crimes.
Wow. So justice was served in the end,
It was
but at a huge cost.
at a huge cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lynn's life was taken,
Right.
and her loved ones are left to deal with the fallout.
And this postmortem episode talks about how Lynn didn't have a big social circle,
Right.
and that could have made her more vulnerable to Jesse.
It's so true. It makes you think about
Yeah.
how important it is to have those close connections.
It's not just about having a lot of friends.
No, it's not.
It's about having people who truly care about you
Exactly.
and who can spot those red flags.
Right. Could things have been different if Lynn had a larger support network?
That's a really good question, and I think that's something that we should really dive into in part 3 of this deep dive.
Definitely.
We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into this crazy case.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the murder, the manipulation, the trial,
Mm-hmm.
but I really want to focus on Lynn in this last part.
Yeah, that's important.
Like, what can we learn from her story?
Well, it's a good reminder that anyone can be vulnerable.
Yeah, even someone like Lynn who might seem like she was living a normal life.
Exactly. And, we tend to think of isolation as like a physical thing,
Right.
but it can also be emotional.
Yeah, you can be surrounded by people and still feel totally alone.
Exactly. If you don't have those meaningful connections.
Right. So how do we combat this feeling of isolation?
Well, I think awareness is a big part of it.
Okay, so we're aware now.
Well, then it's about taking action. Checking in on your friends and family.
Okay.
Really listening to them, offering help.
Yeah, sometimes the smallest gestures can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And it makes you think about all those times.
Yeah.
We might have been too busy to notice someone struggling.
Totally. Or maybe we brushed off someone who was trying to connect with us.
It happens. And we can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
But we can try to create a culture of caring in our communities.
Yeah, so like instead of just being passive observers,
Right.
we can be active participants in each other's lives.
Exactly. And sometimes just asking, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can open up a whole conversation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And, this case also shows how important it is to be vigilant.
Yeah, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us.
Exactly. Like if you see a friend who's being manipulated or financially abused,
Right.
don't be afraid to speak up.
But that's where I think a lot of people struggle.
Yeah,
Like, how do you balance respecting someone's space
that's true.
with looking out for them?
It's a delicate balance,
Yeah.
but I think you have to trust your gut. If
Okay.
something feels wrong, it probably is.
Yeah.
Express your concerns, but don't force solutions.
Right. You can't control someone else's actions,
Right.
but you can offer support.
Exactly. And a listening ear.
Well, this case has definitely given us a lot to think about.
It really has.
It's scary to see how easily someone can be manipulated
Maybe?
and how devastating the consequences can be.
Absolutely.
But it's also a wake-up call.
It is.
We can choose to be better.
We can.
We can choose to connect with each other,
Yes.
to support each other,
Yeah.
and to speak up when we see something wrong.
It all starts with us.
So let's honor Lynn's memory
Yes.
by making a positive change in the world.
Absolutely.
Reach out to a friend. Volunteer your time. Be that person who makes a difference.
I love that.
Because in the end, connection, compassion, and vigilance are the best tools we have
I agree.
to fight against isolation and exploitation.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you.
Always a pleasure.